This conference will now be recorded.
You're on.
You're all set? Good morning. It's Monday, October 5th. This is the meeting for the Tufton Road Board of Selectmen. Before we begin, I'd like to let you know, members of the public wishing to attend this meeting electronically, please join from your computer, tablet, or smartphone. You can reach it at /global.gotomeeting.com/join/99643391. You can also listen via telephone. It's toll free at 877-309-2073, access code 99643391. Please note that you'll be able to interact in a public meeting input using the online service. However, you will only be able to listen to the meeting via telephone. If you have any issues attending this meeting electronically using the aforementioned instructions, please call area code 603-569-5903. Would everyone please stand and pledge allegiance to the flag?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, happy foliage season. Our first item of business is any public input. We'll next move on to the review and approval of minutes. The first are the Board of Selectmen minutes of 9/28/20. I have nothing to add.
I move approval.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 3-0. The next set of minutes are September 28th, non-public. I have nothing to add.
I'll move approval.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. You all set, Jack? Yep. You're up. Jack Carson's building update.
Two more permits here. So we've done 92 building permits. We have 13 new homes and 327 inspections. As you can see, they put plugs in this building. The painting started at the town hall. The rot was repaired out front, and I did the parking lot stripes at the town office. And he's waiting on emergency light at the town office. Supposedly it was coming in Friday, so they're having a hard time getting parts. And he has to replace the photocell outside there too for the front walkway lights.
And we're waiting for windows, right?
Still waiting on the 3 in the front of the selectman's office, and he's doing them in batches, and they're just having a hard time getting stuff.
Any other questions? Sweet, thank you.
You're welcome.
As usual, thank you for your effort.
Yep.
Probably not too early to take the air conditioners out.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it this
I
week.
mean, it's
Yeah.
no rush, but I don't.
Just that one, that's.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna need it again.
I hope not.
Um,
These are gonna stay up here. I'm gonna put them in the other room, so.
Good.
And just so you know, about air conditioners, there's still, I think, 3 left down in the basement, so I don't know what you want to do with those. If you want to put out there, if someone wants them, they can come get them. It's totally up to you.
Yeah. A question came up about the ladder at Melvin Wharf.
Yeah.
Is that something you put in, that swing over ladder?
Yeah, I take it out. And I
Yeah.
put it in the garage.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the basement, actually, yeah.
That's what I,
Yeah, I just leave it in there now because someone falls over the edge right now or something like that, they can at least get out there, so. Think so? Yeah. The gentleman that's actually painting right now is a contractor too, and he's gonna look at the cupola to give me a price on the cupola so they can bring that forward for next year, hopefully, so. I talked to other people, and other people don't want it, they don't really want to touch it, so they're just so busy, and he said he'd look at it and give me a price, so. One's better than none, I guess.
what else are we looking at next year?
That's about it. I mean, it was on that building, that was the cupola and the windows on the second floor, which is just the two big ones and one more awning. Here, it's just maybe paint this building. So I'll ask him to get me a price on painting this building. Same time the town office was painted. Yeah. So,
Jeff did a nice job on that.
yeah, he did a good job fixing it. Yeah, it's all plastic over there now, and I'm actually gonna skim the ramp so it comes out flush with the top. So I just don't want to do it when it was rain in the forecast. So.
Yeah. Some of the bottom boards around, flat boards around the rest
Yeah,
of the
they
building.
need some touch up
rough.
painted, yeah.
Yeah.
There's one little spot in the front corner that he saw. So I take care of that.
So,
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
thank you, sir.
Be safe, thank you for your efforts. I think the other can't be here today. You can, you can have my copy when I'm done reading it. From transfer station. I apologize, I couldn't be here, so late Sunday. Self-explanatory is a lot of the staple sections is the revenue action, those paid. It's actually summarized on the first page. Under general info items, the first 7 or 8 are things that have been accomplished. He's working on the budget. Explain to him when we get the COLA, he gets the COLA. He's waiting for an allocate for station mowing. Drug training day is a work in progress involving the police and the federal government, maybe sometime this fall. And the landfill monitoring, we have the paperwork, got it, it's a work in progress. Any comments from the board? Well, moving right along. Zach Kyle will be here at 9:30, Stephen Gate at 9:45. Signature file.
Yes.
This is a administrative abatement for $500 for lot 28-1-58. It was someone should have received the veterans exemption.
Move approval.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. While you're doing that, the town clerk's election notice. The inhabitants of Tupperboro and County of Carroll have meeting at Tupperboro Central School, 205 Middle Road on Tuesday, the 3rd day of November. Polls will be open between the hours of 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. on the following subjects: bringing votes for president, vice president, governor, United States Senator, United States Representative, Executive Counselor, State Senator, State Representative, and county officers. Given under our hands the 5th day of office. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. While you're signing that, this is,
Intent.
intent to cut for 56-3 sublot 9 on North Line Road.
I'll move approval.
I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Is today the 4th or the 5th?
Fifth.
Just put everything in. Next is action items. This is the intermunicipal agreement for the provision of aquatic nuisance plant control.
I'll be happy to speak to that.
Go ahead.
So in 2010, the towns of Wolfboro, Moultonboro, and Tuftonboro set up an intermunicipal agreement for control of aquatic invasives. And this group purchased and operated equipment to harvest milfoil. The way intermunicipal agreements work in the state of New Hampshire is they run for a 5-year term, or at least that's the way this one was set up, and it can be renewed every 5 years. So we're at the end of the second 5-year period, and the joint board is, we're thinking the process of winding down, but we're not winding down yet. So the chairman's signature on this will authorize the extension of the agreement for another 5 years under the current terms. Currently, there are just 2 members because Moultonboro withdrew in 2014, I think it was. So just Tuftonboro and Moultonboro.
Are you ready? So they're not doing anything?
Well, they're not participating as part of the joint group. And what's happened in the intervening 10 years is that work that we started out using equipment that belonged to the board to do has pretty much transitioned into contractors using their own equipment, don't want to use our equipment anymore. So we're looking for a new home for the milfoil harvesting unit. The Lakeland Pisaki Association expressed some interest in taking over, coordinating and using it, looked at it and decided that because of the way the work's being done on the lake, which is with contractors using their own equipment, it really didn't make sense for them. So we put the word out that we had a piece of equipment available. And we have had about a dozen entities from all over New England interested. So which was much more than what we expected. So we're in the process of putting a request for bids together. And I'm hopeful that before the end of the year, we will have bids in, selected the buyer, sell it. And one of the provisions in the municipal agreement is that once we sunset, then the remaining assets get divided back to the towns. And we currently have about I think it's $20-some thousand in cash reserves plus whatever value this unit is. So that's where we're at there. So
So we're not looking, will we get a budget item for that?
no, we haven't contributed any money to the joint board. It's 2 or 3 years, just running off of what it has. So I will move to have the chairman sign this extension document. Did you have a chance to look at it?
I did.
Is there a second?
I was looking.
Any further discussion? Those prepared to vote on the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. The second thing in the action folder is the list of 16 companies that put in bids for the modern transfer station. Mr. Fair has the Wendy Conservation look at it, and also Clayton.
Yeah, I think both of them.
Yeah.
And I've already put a copy in this box.
Okay, let's see the copy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we want to set a date when we're going to make our decision? Or we'll just be looking at.
Well, we meet again in 2 weeks. I'm going to suggest that we look at making a decision then. And if we don't have the information back from Steve and from Clay, at that point, we can let it ride, but rather than just leaving it open-ended.
Let's pencil it in for 2 weeks. I'll go back to appointments, Steve. On down, we're way ahead of schedule, so.
Yeah.
Welcome, how are you doing?
Fine. Was there anything I needed to know on the first item you guys were talking about when I came in?
Other than we got 16 bids for 3 years as a transfer station to monitor place.
This is just the regular DES monitoring, nothing in
Yeah,
terms
yeah.
of expanded stuff.
Right.
So, and yeah, so we had 16 proposals and, the prices range from under 24,000 to just under 88,000. Everybody quoted the same work.
Hmm.
So, well, they quoted the same requirement, right? So I have no idea personally who's qualified and who isn't. So having somebody that knows a little bit more about it than I do, look at these things and say, well, this guy seems to really have missed the boat, or never heard of this guy, or they're well respected in the state, I think is all helpful information to us as we decide who we're gonna award a contract to.
Okay. And,
There's nothing wrong with going with a low bidder, but we want to make sure if we
Yeah.
go with a low bidder that the guy is competent and we have a reasonable expectation that he's going to be responsive, and he's going to meet the deadlines and all that stuff. I mean, by contract, he has to, but that doesn't mean that he necessarily will perform.
yeah,
So
is Clay gonna do any background checking? And I'm guessing we can do that. I just wouldn't want to have it done twice.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I don't know. It doesn't make sense for you guys to duplicate the work, but I think it does make sense to have both of you look at it and give us your opinion as to.
I think last time we looked at the low bidder group just based on what they, on their websites, what they say they have for an organization and what the qualifications were on the people in the organization and what kind of work they did, something like that. Okay. All right, so back quite a while ago, I guess it was within last year sometime, we went to the planning board relative to the Sargent and Phelps lots, acquiring those to take their input. And Matt Young was very interested in seeing that those properties could support themselves because they were going off the tax roll with forest management, which is allowed in the easement that we granted to Lakes Region Conservation Trust. And I told him at the time that I thought they had been harvested so heavily, it's going to be a long time before you could do anything that would produce a profit or be meaningful in way of forest management. And being that far out, it wouldn't make sense to me to do a forest plan, which was what he was suggesting, a forest plan that would talk about what you could do as far as forest management in order to produce some income. And eventually the discussion went on for a while, and I tried to demonstrate my credentials to say that, and I think he might have questioned that, but he eventually agreed to donate the funds to produce forest plans for those properties and any other town-owned properties that have a harvestable timber crop on them. So we've been proceeding forward since then. You know, I don't have any objections as long as the town doesn't have to pay for it. So we did locate a forester with a good deal of experience with this in fairly high demand. And we did take him, Steve Scapicchio and I, Steve is the vice chairman, and we took him around to 5 properties. 2 of those are the ones that initiated the discussion, Sargent and Phelps up in the north end of the Great Meadow. We did that probably 2 weeks ago. That included the lot behind the fire station, the lot down at 20 Mile Bay, and the lot behind the parking area at 19 Mile Bay. And he came up with an estimate, as you can see, of $8,000. And he didn't include things like mileage for travel and printing the document. So I would be asking him to include that, make a good faith estimate on that and include that in the price. And then because it's a donation, you have to accept it. And we have to figure out a way to deal with the funds. I think there are 3 options. You know, one is just to accept it into the town budget, and then you would manage the contract and make the payments. It could, Matt could actually be responsible for that. The forester would work for Matt, and then once the plans were done, he would donate the plans. And we would have because we have this number, that would be the basis that he could use if he was going to go for a tax deduction or something like that. And then the third option would be Conservation Commission has a conservation fund authorized by state RSA, and it can accept contributions, and we can section out any portion of that fund for a specific purpose. So in this case, it would be to produce the forest plans, and then we couldn't use those funds for anything else. So those are the three options.
What do you recommend?
I don't know. I think the third option, the conservation fund, is probably the easiest for everybody. We have a strong interest in the Great Meadow properties, 2 Great Meadow properties. We maintain the trail on both of the other 2 properties along with volunteers. It's in some ways, I think it's not a conservation responsibility to manage to do forest management, to take that responsibility of hiring and paying a forester. And but on the other end, you have some expertise here.
Well, it is conservation property. I think did anybody bother to enlighten Matt?
I have copied Matt with every email, and I've done all of this by email. And I've given him reports when we did things like that. Oh, okay.
Okay, pull up the tax records for when Phelps owned it. I think we're talking small hundreds of dollars. He's gonna invest $8,000 in
Yeah.
a forest management plan. And if you were going to recoup that, I mean, it would take years and years and years and years to do it. I mean, I'm all for coming up with a forest management plan for all town and property, that's not bad. But I think to do it specifically to try to create the income loss from taxation as a fool's errand. That was a money being made from taxes anyway. And how much money did they pay in taxes on those current use properties? That was
It's pocket change.
Yeah, I've got 120 acres, not in and it's less than $1,000 a year. So I can't imagine how it works there. And I know that they log really nice work they turn over to you. So.
Well, it's also true of the other properties, although it was a while ago, but it still affects the value. Like if you walk on the trail behind the fire station, it looks probably to a layperson, it looks like it's well forested. To a forester, it looks like, well, they got everything 40 years ago and all the growth has gone on trees that aren't worth a lot. And then there's this really heavy understory of beech. Anything you do, the beech is going to take over. The beech is susceptible to an invasive insect called beech scale, which kind of robs it of its value as it matures, and trees don't get old because they eventually die from it. So, you'd have to, if you were trying to do sustainable management, you would have to deal with that beech in order to get some other species like some red oak or something and white pine back. That's an expensive investment. It's not going to be paid for by that the initial harvesting. It's really tough in this world today to make money when you own land. It's you can make money by taking crops from the land and not thinking about reinvesting in it. And eventually that runs out. Unfortunately, most people own land between age of 50 and 80. And So that during that 30-year period, they don't think about 120 years of forest management decisions. I don't need to get into that. Yes, I agree with you. I would not do this myself. But I've tried to keep him in the loop along the way.
The Conservation Commission wants to do something like this, but you run it through your revolving fund and do it within the letter of the authority, just keep us on. I'm not interested in accumulating any sort of annual expense on forest land, which all of it needs at least 75 or 80 years to regenerate. We haven't got it, we can cull to make the regeneration better.
One of my long-term objectives is to see if the town would turn that lot into what's called a town forest. And there are specific rules on how to do that by state regulation. And there are specific things you have to do in the management, which are all good. But it's a way to demonstrate to landowners different things you can do. For example, out there, the beach problem, there are ways of dealing with that. So if a landowner was interested in that, we would have a demonstration out there on how to do it. And there's an easy walking trail with the hiking trail out there to go out and see some of those things. And it's also a way of educating the public about forest management. And you can actually, do that all along the trail, put up some signs or a barcode where they can get the message on their cell phone, and it tells this is what's going on right here, and this is why it was done. So I'd like to do that someday.
Well, you've already had a couple of small projects. Cops Pond is a perfect example where you have volunteers and things. And I see cars there all the time.
And does the cooperative extension still do any of this?
Yeah,
I mean, maybe a less intense survey would be.
they provide advice. They do not do forest planning.
Maybe we could get some advice from them on what we should be looking at as opposed to just. I mean, this fellow, I'm sure, is an honorable gentleman, he's looking to charge a state grant for that. He's decided to describe. Maybe we can get the cooperative extension to describe what they might think would be an appropriate survey of the land, sort of, kind of narrow it down a bit. I mean, I'd love to say not a grant, but I don't think that's his decision.
I've already had Wendy Scribner, who's the county forester. I've already had her out here behind the fire station, and she's ready to support the town forest idea. I haven't done anything else, but so you're proposing that we bring Wendy in
Or
to,
just get a letter of opinion from Wendy on these 3 lots and say,
but she'll have to go out and look at them.
is this money well spent? Yeah, that's all.
Okay.
I mean,
I guess my feeling is Matt's committed to doing this, and there is some value regardless, maybe not $8,000 worth of value, some value to having forced to do this stuff. The third alternative that you laid out, which was to have the process take place under the auspices of the Conservation Commission, makes the most sense to me for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're the guy that knows the most about forests, heck of a lot more than I do. And so somebody's going to go out and do the survey and produce a report. If I look at it, is it of any value? Is it any good? If somebody that has eyes that know that are going to be able to recognize and accept the work as what he described, and including all the different, whatever you put in a forest plan. So having it all under your control makes more sense than having us in the middle of it. Because from my perspective, if the guy's working for us, we're gonna be doing like we're doing with the landfill monitoring and going to you and saying, we need your opinion to make sure that that what he's doing is right, and that the result we get is the proper forest management plan, includes all the pieces that goes into one. And not only does it include the pieces, but what's in there isn't just gobbledygook. It's based on knowledge of forest management and that sort of thing.
So where do you want me to go from here?
With the Conservation Commission managing accepting the donation into your fund, that's my recommendation.
I agree.
And
Do you want me to bring in UNH or try to bring in UNH first?
My only motivation there was just to educate. No, nothing else. I mean, I hate to see somebody spend money on something that has no value. That was my reason behind bringing money in market extension. Obviously, I can't psychoanalyze everybody in town, but we need to maybe prevent people from making erroneous assumptions. So I think a letter from Monday, talk with Matt, an explanation of what kind of tax revenue has been lost. And then the second question is, you still want to go forward? If you do, I think we're all in agreement to go through the conservation. Sounds like a lot, but I don't think it would take much.
Full speed ahead.
Good. All right.
Just have a point comment. Matt Youngster of the town and many functions, but in terms of money, he helped getting the ramp built up at the church. He helped the fire department getting floatable boats that's smaller for event streams. Isn't he currently working on Crossbar?
Yes.
He's involved in that, so he has a proven track record of helping the community in a number of different areas, and I think he's a worthy partner.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to discourage it.
Mhm.
I think I know what the results are going to be. And yeah, and I think it's
I mean, all the projects.
It's a big investment for that result.
You know, we all appreciate what Matt does for the town, but I want to get the fingers burned on this one because of some healthy assumption.
Okay.
His eyes are open wide going in, and he understands that the money that's put out for this is not going to generate revenue anywhere near what it would make sense to do it, if he wants to do it. It's his decision.
okay.
So, and you have been dealing with him for quite a long period of time with respect to this, because it was a while ago that you mentioned that at planning board, as I recall. And so.
Well, I didn't start on it until we actually closed on the last property, which was in out of June, I think, or early July, June. Anyway, that's when I started working on it. I didn't want to, I wanted to make sure we actually owned the property before we started making commitments.
Okay.
Okay. Ask if you want to, monitoring 19 Mile Brook is, I sent a memo about where we are with that. Want me to go over that?
You did. Yeah.
All right, so we have engaged this FP Environmental, who are the same as ones doing the watershed plan, which was just rolled out. And Dave Ward has agreed to pay for that out of his budget. It's going to generate a draft monitoring plan. They will meet with us once they produce that so that we can comment on, that should be early November. And then we can make comments and they will have to respond as part of the contract. This was the contract you guys signed the last time I was in here.
Mhm.
And so we should have a final by early December, which Dave requested so that he would know what the cost of doing the monitoring, and he would put it in his budget. He also, last time we met, and I talked to him about Whitten Pond, and he said he was going to form a Whitten Pond study group, which he was going to recruit scientists from UNH as well as from his contractors, abutting landowners, and us, and Tufton and Wolfboro Conservation Commission will all be invited to be on that study group and try to look at what's going on in Whitten Pond and what they can do about it. And then the third thing that I asked him to do was to do a site plan for the RIB, which would deal with issues like stormwater, forest management, wildlife management. And he responded with talking about how he could see a walking trail out there sometime with maybe some educational material about what the site's being used for. And he said that they would be dealing with a stormwater plan right away. They're working on that right now. And then he agreed to do the rest and involve us and Wolfboro Conservation Commission as he develops it. So I felt pretty good about all of that.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Well, great.
All right, anything else?
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for your efforts. Be safe.
Okay.
Yes, that's Steve.
Mr. Baumann, come on down.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
I'm Lloyd Wood.
Bill Markinson.
Bill, Chip. I brought some copies of my resume for you guys, as well as some information on grants out there.
No. Okay.
Go ahead through the one delivery.
So I'm aware that you guys are looking to update your police station, expand it, whatever have you. You're looking for monies out there, primarily grants, obviously free monies, or anything else that's out there pertaining to that. My name is Zach. I work for the New Hampshire Community Loan Fund. I have some experience with USDA grants and CDBG grants through Donna Lane, helping her with that stuff, as well as I have some law enforcement contacts that could probably point me into the right direction for law enforcement grants and funding, stuff like that. Major Russell Conti with the state police, he's in charge of a lot of their grants and applying for stuff like that for them. I would utilize my resources to pretty much, see what options are out there for the town, for the police department, and seeing what you guys want to get done. Do you guys have a budget put together or anything like that so far for the project?
We have an estimated construction cost based on a conceptual design.
Okay.
And we also are in the process of identifying and hiring a construction manager.
Okay.
And we have, what's it?
It's lots of money. You figure out the design process.
Yes, I'm sorry, when you said budget, you're talking about budget for the project or for?
Yeah, so the whole project, and then like how much do you guys have so far? What do you guys need to finish it all and feel comfortable and everything like that? So,
We put about $600,000 aside.
okay.
We started the preliminary work with the architect.
Mhm.
It's all up architect. Friday, we met about the job site and 5 potential construction managers expressed an interest. We already have a USDA grant we received for $250,000. And there's another grant, what they call EOC, for 125, and that's matching, matching,
Okay. And what's the estimated construction cost?
approaching $2 million.
You were 1.7.
How much, sorry?
I think it was
Like $1,000,007.
1.7?
It's a copy of the design.
So you guys have you guys are a small town, like 3 police people on? Or how big's the police force?
4.
4?
Yeah.
Police officers.
Plus an administrator. The administrators. Hopefully.
Yep.
That's what we have.
The town also has had experience with FEMA
Mhm.
and USDA, for example, in has used the fire department. That's paid for radios and things like that with grants.
I saw a lot out there for equipment. Yeah, radios, bulletproof vests, training as well. A lot of mental health training for the officers right now. I do know that primarily it's better to, when towns do go for this money, they do the combination of the fire and the police together. But I understand that you guys have a brand new fire department down the road and the police want their own space. So it's going to take some research, but I hope that I can find something for you guys.
Do you have any experience with Northern Boundaries?
I do. I haven't written anything, but I've attended many of the meetings for them, and I know their ED over there, so I would feel.
It's a ways out there. Transfer station has talked about the building.
Okay,
The building.
okay. I do know there's a lot of money for the northern borders out there, and you guys would qualify, of course.
Mhm.
Up here.
As a matter of fact, one of the 5 commissioners would go for it.
Okay,
We also have been connected with 2 other grants that oversee legally, and that is Lower Beach Pond, a large dam project, covers 2 towns.
Okay.
And currently, North Country Village is redoing its water system. And it's not town money involved, but we have a responsibility legally.
yeah, you guys sponsored them. Yeah, I work with the ROC program, so I don't work with North Country Village, but I work with many other cooperatives. Like I got to go out to Claremont today for a feasibility study to looking to do their infrastructure project as well. I have about 3 groups right now doing infrastructure projects. So I've been seeing a lot of the CDBG, and I know they don't do law enforcement stuff, unfortunately, but it's something that I want to get into and get some experience in. So.
Do you charge a fee?
Nope, it would just be the same as Donna Lane. If I get you guys the secured funding, then it'd be 10%, I guess. I know for CDBG, if it's like 500,000, she takes 50,000 for her administration. So something like that.
So you were on the grant. What would you foresee as being the process here?
So first, researching the best potential ones, bringing it to you guys, get the okay. Then just going through the necessary work to apply, whether, I know with the CDBG and stuff like that, you have to do income surveys a lot of the time. So I'm not sure if some of these grants are going to require that. And just, I would really utilize Donna to make sure, because she has the experience and everything like that, and I don't want to do this the wrong way at all. So concurrence with her, I would just run everything by her and just make sure I'm doing it right, as well as utilize Kathy over there for any information that I would need from the town, any votes or anything like that, because it's probably gonna need a town vote to accept money and everything like that, understandable. So that would be my first steps. Really just identifying strong ones to go for that just won't be a waste of time, essentially.
So this is primarily federal grant.
Mhm.
It's going to change the budget up a little bit. So, any idea that time frame you need to secure something or get it going on?
No, I would really honestly just go today and just like start researching everything I can, send you guys options, what you guys think. This is essentially like a side hustle for me, but I'm looking to get into it because it's a great experience to have. And, there's not many people doing it, so.
Well, I don't remember the specific grant, right? So it's the learning experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And you remember it goes back a lot longer than mine.
Yes, I'm losing it fast.
Yeah, well, we all are.
Have you worked for any other communities in Carroll County?
Yeah, I work with Sandy Ridge over in Ossipee. That's Carroll County, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sandy Ridge and Ossipee. I have a couple in Barron. Well, that's not Carroll County. But Rochester, I have a couple over there. I have a group up in Milan doing $1 million infrastructure project, new water system, new septic systems. I've helped them secure the USDA funding for that.
In Milan?
Yeah, Milan, New Hampshire. Yeah.
$1 million is a lot of money in Milan.
I know. Yeah. And this was a project a long time in the making for them, but I'm happy enough to help them get over that hurdle. I've been with the community loan fund for about 1.5 years now and helping them improve the rock program and just get new life into it as well. So.
You coordinated with Donna on everything?
Yep.
We can use her as a recommendation.
Absolutely. So she helped me with the feasibility study out in Claremont. So that's securing $25,000 through community development block grant to get the property conditions report done for the cooperative. CDBG out in Barrington, SRF as well for my cooperative, Lee Oak. That's DES money for their state development fund for the water damaged or contaminated water systems. So yeah, I've worked with Donna a lot. She's the one who told me about you guys, and I said it would be a great thing for me to get into, someone young and eager and stuff.
So what would you need from us to begin this process?
Just an okay. And then I would just go back to my office in my free time, just research potential options that I feel would be strong and you guys would get for winning, awarding the grant. Sorry.
Great. Does there have to be any paperwork like a letter of agreement or what you charge for services or anything like that?
It's probably a good thing to get it out of that. Yeah, I'll have to ask Donna what she does for the towns that put her on for their grant writing. But yeah, I'm sure there's a letter or something that needs to be.
Yeah, because I think I enjoy the fact that you're young and ambitious, but I think we should have some sort of agreement.
Yeah.
So that when we ask for commitment to get something back to us, let's say by December 1st.
Yep.
That, we have that agreement.
Yep.
And we work together.
Yeah, that sounds good to me as well.
Rather than, the kind of spirit that I didn't enjoy the most out of your presentation was free time. But hopefully we're not just a hobby.
No, I'm looking to, get going in my professional career.
What he says, what I said earlier, we use the services of West Region Planning.
Mhm.
But
Planning commission.
would we pay a fee to belong to that association? Submit grants to us and help write grants and actually monitor a couple of them. So
Yep.
We've had some experience that.
Yep, absolutely.
The other thing is our police chief and fire chief, a number of years ago, sat down when they took a FEMA course and actually crafted purchasing policies. So when the federal government comes in to see how we run things, we're not getting ink
Mhm.
and we receive compliments on it.
No.
Anything else from the board?
We're gonna put a motion in there. You all right about that?
Absolutely.
And I think I'd like to make a motion that the board accept the services of Rock Palmer for record. And he provides with a letter of agreement and also authorizing him to contact our executive secretary and our police department, our chief of police for any information on that.
I'll second that.
I would say through her can contact him with the department. He may come across. Any motion, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All right,
3-0.
thank you. I will get a agreement sort of thing. I'll reach by Donna and get what she uses most likely, and I'll get it to Kathy.
Great.
Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, can I ask the board a question? So, want to go on correspondence and.
Why don't we
want to deal with our friends?
Why don't we, Dan's here and he's up next on the appointments.
Are you here for budget?
I'm just waiting to hear what's going on.
Dan, why don't you come on down? Good morning, sir.
Thanks.
Talking points. Heather tells me that we will certainly be going over her budget for poll workers by the time we're finished with the November 3rd election. I believe that there has been already an application for some of the CARES money that has gone through. And we have, and attached to this, we've been in contact, or I should say they've been in contact with us, this New Hampshire Campaign for Voting Rights, who are apparently offering additional funds for any purpose within the concept of the election coming up. I think we're going to need everything we can get. I mean, I don't expect to be breaking the budget, breaking the bank on how many people, but we need to probably have about 30 volunteers during the course of the day on November 3rd. So number one problem is being sure that they can all be compensated as they expected them. If this New Hampshire Campaign for Voting Rights is something that you want to look into, there's an application attached. You can apply online. I don't think it's my responsibility to apply for this sort of thing, but between you and Jen, I suppose you can look into it.
So you've already, the CARES grant is already been submitted.
This apparently is a do we call it unofficial? This is a philanthropic organization that's designed to help local communities run the election, as I read it. We have, Jen tells me that we have well over 400 applications for absentee ballots already. And that certainly will go up.
So you've identified a number of additional people that you need for the general election. In terms of numbers, do you have individuals in mind at this point?
No, I've got a long list of people who have offered to volunteer. we need to staff the tent. We set up a tent for unmasked voters before, but it was very cumbersome to be moving a ballot box back and forth between that, plus the fact that we also need to process absentee ballots that have not been pre-processed on election day. And that's very cumbersome, especially with a 6-foot spacing. And so I felt that we could make good use of the tent by using that space and an assistant moderator and a couple of assistant clerks to process the absentee ballots that need to be processed on election day.
So, and have you identified candidates for those positions?
Not personally, no.
So there can't be any counting until.
I'm sorry.
There can't be any counting until after the polls are closed.
No counting until after the polls are closed. That's
All
correct.
those absentee ballots, getting counted after.
They get, on election day, the name needs to be announced publicly. The affidavit envelope is opened and the ballot is deposited into the ballot box, but it's not counted until after the polls close.
So you need a ballot clerk just for that.
You need to have a sworn-in election official in wherever the ballot box is located. It must be under the control of an election official all the time. So, and traditionally the processing of the absentee ballots on election day, I'm not talking about pre-processing, that's a different deal. But on election day, the moderator announces the name, the ballot clerks check it off the checklist, and the ballot is, the affidavit envelope is open and placed in. The reason I mentioned the clerks, it may well be Jen and I who go over to the tent to perform that particular operation. But we need to have officials in the tent all day long as there's a ballot box in there.
So you don't want to be moving the ballot box or having 2 ballot boxes.
We have we used 2 ballot boxes on the September 8th. But that's very cumbersome in the sense that we took IDs from those people who didn't want to wear a mask. We had to carry their ID into the check-in area, interrupt the flow of the line there while we got a ballot for each of those people. Brought them back, they voted, we physically carried the ballot box in when they were there, deposited the ballots, and it just, it's cumbersome and it interrupts the flow of things. I certainly expect, we had 851 ballots cast in September. I expect we'll have probably somewhere between 1,700 and 1,800 ballots cast in November. And how many people will be reluctant to wear a mask or won't wear a mask, I can't estimate. We had 5 before. I think we can expect more than that this time. So, you know.
Yeah, double the number of voters show up, you put double the number of people show up.
So are you looking for our help in recruiting people?
No, I have my list, and if I need your help, I'll ask for it. But
You just want to make sure that there's going to be the money
I just
there.
want you to be aware that this is my plan to have 30 volunteers around to make the election work smoothly.
Right. Well, and to be clear, they're not volunteers. They're people that we pay
That's
to be
correct.
there, right? I mean, they're volunteers and they say, I'm available and I'll be happy to do it. But the town pays them to
I
participate.
think it's
And
$9.50 an hour, $10 an hour, something like that.
whatever it is. So it seems to me that what you've laid out here, including a number of new people, is a structure that you want to make sure that you fill all those positions. Because any vacant positions is going to cause more of a scramble and a backup for voters and for the other workers at the polls.
I agree. I agree. There's two other areas. Yes, Lloyd?
What do you estimate the total budget to have the elections November 5th?
I don't estimate. I don't know that. I believe that
$20,000 or $10,000?
I've never been involved at that level. I think it's in the town clerk's line item.
Jen,
Yeah,
the other thing is Jen's already had experience in writing grants. She is the town writing this grant.
right.
She know us.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I didn't think it was within my scope of responsibility to decide we apply or don't apply. So I come here just offering the paperwork to you, and I can ask Jen to fill out the paperwork. I don't think that's a problem.
The only position I can see that is required us is the assistant moderator.
Statute.
I worked the position.
Or assistant moderator can be appointed.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. I think that's somebody we have to, you identify and we appoint.
I have the authority to appoint an assistant moderator.
Super. Super. One thing, and I don't specifically see it in this list, that came up on primary election day, just from observing what went on, is that there were a fair number of people that were confused about the traffic flow in the gym. And I know Jen and I have talked about it, and I assume you've had some conversation about it as well with respect to additional signage, additional stuff on the floor to help people visually understand. Here's how I go. Jen and I talked specifically about having a sign up on top of the sneeze guard at the checkout station that says, just a big sign that says check out here.
Right.
So that people, once they get done marking their ballot, may have a clear understanding of where they go next.
I agree. On the back page of my outline, it's just a couple of notes about setup, and one of them is additional directional signs that are required. And that's the second thing I wanted to talk about was setup. The school has suggested that we can set up only after 4 o'clock on Friday or Monday. Jack has suggested that he does not work after 4 o'clock. So I will be looking for additional help setting up the polling place on either Friday or Monday. I don't know what the status is of Caleb and the fire department people, but perhaps you can help me find out.
So the election's set up on Friday after 4.
After 4 on Friday, after 4 on Monday.
I don't understand the after.
What's that?
Well, because school's in session, they don't want anybody there while school's in session.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
the people.
Yeah, it's the people thing. So
Right, that's exactly
they'll
right.
make the gym available to us starting Friday afternoon, but they don't want any of their people around when we're doing it.
That's
I see some benefit to targeting Friday as a setup day.
I do too.
Because then the stuff you don't get done on Friday, you come back Monday afternoon, you got another shot at it. It's like, oh, yeah, well, we forgot this.
That's correct. And we talked about Saturday, but the school has a policy that nobody can be in there unless the janitor is present.
Right.
And he doesn't work on Saturdays, so the only way we could be in there on Saturday was to pay for a janitor to be there. Okay. I think that's certainly true. Yeah. Well, we've been told that we can't be in there unless a janitor is present. And I figured that we didn't want to pay for the janitor, so I figured either Monday or Friday would be the day.
I do realize that the school has to be consistent. It's a cooperative effort, and nothing wrong with it. Everyone's friendly, it gets along, and it's great. But we also, I understand the school district has a number of other towns that it deals with.
There's at least three others.
They have unique.
Yeah.
So there'd be no school on election day?
That's correct. There's no school.
is closed on election day.
Yeah. But we will appreciate anybody who would assist on that. I mean, we got a lot of tables and chairs and not all of us are as adept at moving heavy furniture as we used to be. So we'll be looking for help. Another area that we'll be looking for help is counting on after the ballots are closed. One of the things that we identified in September was there was a real problem. First of all, we had probably too many counters. And so there was a backup of them bringing their tally sheets up and recording that information. So we're going to attempt to get a team of counters for every 300 ballots. That's probably going to be 6 teams of counters instead of 10. But the real problem is when they've got their tally sheets filled out, transcribing that information onto the master tally, and then getting that information also to Jen in a manner in which they can do that. Now, Bill, you've stayed with us right to the end and helped out in that process, but I could use some help from either of the other selectmen in terms of reconciling the tally sheets and getting the information to Jen. I don't think we should ask these people to stand around for an extra hour while we go do it. I would think two moderator, assistant moderator, selectman, whatever, tallying the tally sheets, and then one selectman or worker to work with Jen to get that information onto her sheets in the proper manner so that they can be submitted to the state. There's going to be a lot of pressure on us to get the returns finalized and done. So, you know, if you guys want to go home for dinner and come back or whatever, I think that it would be good to have.
Bullshit. I'm on the ballot, so I don't think I can be involved.
Oh, you can't even come near me. Yeah, don't even think about it.
Right.
So I'm reluctant to ask too many of the people who have been there for 13 hours already to stay a few more hours and help reconcile that. So.
Yep.
And I might add that during the day as well, you people, all three of you, what's his name, accepted our election officers.
Good old, what's his name?
Yeah. So during the election, after your own meeting, it would be helpful sometimes if you could spell some of us either at the ballot box or in the tent or wherever. It's because you are officially election workers. which brings us to the pre-processing of ballots. Jen and I are going to do that on Friday morning before the election. And I am required to have the assistance of 2 more election officers as defined by the statute, which does not include, interestingly enough, the ballot clerks. So I had the assistance before of Mary Ann and Kathy, both ballot clerks. I thought that was legit, but it turns out that the people assisting us to pre-process the ballots have to be election workers as defined in 652 something or other. And that would include supervisors, selectmen, moderator, clerks, but not inspectors of election or ballot clerks. So if any of you people would like to join us on Friday morning before the election.
Well, I'm out of town that day.
Good.
Town office.
Town office, yeah. Yeah, last time we did it right in the selectmen's room.
We'll be signing checks.
Yeah. So you could use a selectman's assistance that morning.
I could use the selectman's assistance that morning. I could use the selectman's assistant to later election night.
Right.
Okay.
And during the day on election day, just making a plea.
Okay.
All right. I will ask Jen to fill out that form and see what comes of it. Okay.
Let's hope for good weather.
Oh, and that's the final note too. I got to talk to Adam. I don't know if they have any kind of one of those heaters like they have at restaurants or something that could go in a tent. Or maybe we could find one. Maybe Pinecone has one and we could borrow it. But we can't guarantee 80-degree weather, that's for
Right.
sure.
Anything else?
That's my story.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, and be safe.
Thank you.
Next item is correspondence. There's 2 things in here that are footnoted. First of all is the state of New Hampshire revenue on monitoring inspection report. And those revenue interests, what the DRA reviews came across the comment, said no errors located, isn't it nice? Good job, right. The next item is a petition from North Country residents and a letter from Marilyn Stacy. Folks had an opportunity to.
I reviewed it, yeah.
Pass that down. Does it need to go to Donna to be reviewed?
So the petition is to take an alternate approach to the water problem at North Country Village rather than replacing the distribution system as it's been designed and funded. And that would be to dissolve the park install individual wells on each home site. And it would then, according to her claim, be less expensive than the system that they're in the process of pursuing. There is, however, the little matter of the mortgage that the association has for the park that has to be satisfied. And I noticed in her letter, she says, well, that the undeveloped acreage could be sold and that would pay for the mortgage. Well, I want to say the balance on the mortgage is over $1 million. And my guess is that there's not $1 million worth of market value in this undeveloped land in the park. So,
Well, I think we have to look at the planning board approval for that park, but I think that there had to be a certain amount of open land obtained in order to do that. Those minuscule plots that each home is sitting on.
yeah,
I don't know how they're gonna do the setback for wells, or each one has the ability to maintain a well.
yeah, well, she says there's something about some special casing on the well that would, according to her claim, allow them to be closer to the septic field than the normal setback. I really don't know anything about any of that stuff, but it's,
And it doesn't seem as though it's a savings, it's a little less money.
right,
But now each individual homeowner has to maintain their own well,
right.
and power and do all the rest of it. So I don't know how much individual savings there would be into the plan.
Well, and the other pieces that the association does, the cooperative does, such as maintaining the roads and that sort of thing. I didn't read every word in her letter, but I don't.
She's talking about disbanding.
Disbanding the cooperative, right. And so
That's not gonna work.
it's, what she's outlined is potential savings and costs on the water system, but all the other pieces that are involved in the North Country Village Cooperative don't seem to be adequately addressed there.
And how many units are there? Do you remember? Offhand? Not really, I don't remember. I wonder if she has enough signatures on a petition to actually.
The petition gets checked out all the time at Park Commission, legal residence. Isn't there a minimum of 20?
I think it's a factor of how many people are involved.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll pass it on, I was going to research it, right, Don is one of them. Those were the two things that corresponds to the list here of the others. Next is Selectmen's update.
I spoke with the representative for the folks that bought that piece of property off on Sandy Knoll. And they're interested in upgrading the roads to access that property. We've allowed that on a number of occasions, people spending money on Class 6 roads, but they need to come in. That's what I've asked them to make an appointment and then. I didn't see anything in the mail, although I can remember today, that included the ballot for the New Hampshire Electric Cooperative. It's the ballot, changing of the cooperative language to allow them to put broadband.
I believe that was in a correspondence a month ago.
It just came out.
That was final, it just,
The
I just got it today.
Okay, right.
Did you take care of that stuff?
Sure.
Oh, I think it's that.
So I move that the board authorize Chip to sign, to vote the ballot in the affirmative.
I'll second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0.
And we haven't had a discussion with our attorney vis-a-vis the cell phone tower, but, I did want to make mention that their relocation of 10 buildings would impact our parking area, storage area for the culverts. So,
I had a question and I couldn't figure out, because it's a small plan, schematically, it's up against the back of a salt shed. First of all, the last thing I want is snow and ice affecting their equipment. Number one. Number two is how do we paint and repair the building? And maybe there is 10 feet there. I couldn't figure it out with my. Other than that, it's been a positive relationship.
yeah, I just feel as though they need to make this law.
Right.
We certainly want to.
They have, Jim Beam in my meetings with them says that there has been some discussion with them and that they require their tower to be erected on non-filled land. They call it.
Well,
Surface.
and we ought to require that because you've got a lot of force on that foundation. You don't want it to be on sketchy base.
Yeah. You know, what kind of fill it is,
Right, exactly.
Anything else?
That's it.
I got a couple of items. Milfoil, our harvesting contractor, will be out around the 18th of October to hit all of our spots again. It's not an exact date because it depends upon what the weather's been like and that sort of thing, but he will be harvesting in the Winter Harbor Basin around the docks at 19 Mile Bay and at Mellon Village in all of the usual
Is this a
spots.
low water effect?
It does not, it doesn't really affect the growth of the, no. No water, but that doesn't. The other thing that I do want to mention is that the watershed management plan presentation was conducted in connection with the Lake Winnipesaukee Association's annual meeting a week ago Thursday. And the final plan will be out shortly. And it includes a number of several projects that they have done design work on with respect to mitigating runoff into the watershed. And those are items that we can and should look at going forward along with others in terms of incorporating them in town projects. For the most part, those kinds of projects are eligible for federal grant money. It's not, I want to say it's like a 50% match when they're approved. And the other thing that the conversation with respect to the watershed plan brought to my mind is every time we do work, like rebuilding roads where we're crossing a stream or whatever, we ought to look at that time about what there are in terms of features we can include in that upgrade to rain gardens, that sort of thing, to reduce the runoff of pollutants into the watershed.
Correct.
That's all I have.
A couple of times I go around with Jim Beam, getting his inventory for signs and projects like that. Is he meeting with us Friday? Is that?
Not this week.
16.
The 16th. He had a list of about 8 or 9 items. And it was the projects he wanted to finish this year. He wasn't quite sure about the budget items. He also didn't have the amount of money he wanted to spend on each of those issues. Shared with the state budget. Or just come in like this guy did and ask for money because the project was going over. Kathy, I need your help. The CIP committee asked me to research. It's my understanding that Sodom Road Bridge, the repairs required by the state of New Hampshire were completed with this project. I can't find it anywhere in writing. So what they want to do is take that off the CIP with some things. You can help me out on that. The other thing is that they asked is, can we come up with a placeholder or an estimate of the cost on Union Wharf and the cost on Lake Road projects that we're planning to do sometime in the future? And again, you can help me research those.
So we can get those from,
Tyler, he had some estimates, yeah.
Okay.
What was the second road, Union Wharf and?
Labor. Yesterday, Mr. Newcomb from Shrewsbury Way went door to door with people. They were friendly. They met with Jim Beam, and they're coming up with a petition to pave Shrewsbury Way and the surrounding roads down there. They were friendly. Listen.
petition or prayer.
Yep. Jim and I looked at, we talked about the crosswalk that at some point is being donated down at Pier 19. And I listened to what Jim had to say, and as we from Melvin Village down past Hedgeways, you can't see the signs, the warning signs. And I said I'd be willing to ask the selectmen if I could interview and get a cost for cutting those trees back. There's a couple that are on landowners' property. But also we go around the corner and cut the brush that's leading over from the parking area as you approach the dock area. But I won't do that without the selectmen's approval. I'm not looking to commit anything, but this is my thought, is if we're going to have someone that's going to spend 5 figures and donate something to the town, it might be the same time to make it as the signs visible and a little safer for people who are pulling their boats out. So
What's the state's position on the speed of traffic? Are they going to change that to crosswalk or?
They're not lower the speed limit. No. So a couple of thoughts that I have. Number one, a crosswalk will not happen until this board signs an agreement with the state. Regardless of who funds it, we control that activity. Number two, with respect to visibility of the signs, the state should have something to say about that. In other words, they're going to approve the design. So the design includes the placement, location of the advanced signs and that sort of thing. And it would surprise me if they signed off on a design where you couldn't see the various features of the crosswalk. So
I wouldn't want to get those costs if I have them.
Well, then, the state can do that work. They're equipped to.
Some of that work, the trees are actually on private property.
I'd have to look at the state right away. I mean, I don't know how, do I'd have to look at it, because it doesn't seem as though trees can be that close. Are you saying the canopy is
Yes.
just kind of blowing out? So as a brush at the wharf, we can cut that ourselves.
Well, some of the trees are on the landowner's property and they're out over the parking area. And what I would do is I would take pictures of this and I would just get the expenses involved so that people can make intelligent decisions. That's all I did.
Thanks.
Last Friday at 9:30, met with Bill Bennett and Andy Shigori, the police station site, and got the list of cards of all the names of people who were interested in being construction managers, project site managers.
And when are the submissions due?
I want to say, I'm not counting.
Maybe this month?
Yeah.
I think that was it.
Any other departments updates? Other business, public. Okay.
We do have some non-public.
And we also have a phone call tonight.
An hour earlier.
Yeah. So,
Well, is there a motion to adjourn the public meeting?
well, I'll move we go into non-public. For RSA 91A3. And it's legal, right?
No.
Yeah.
You want to take a stretch while people are,
Second.
all those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Mark, yes.
I'll be.
Well, everyone take a stretch here.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
We're interviewing again tomorrow morning.
Sorry?
We're interviewing again tomorrow morning.
You want to-
Whoever